There's a new challenger for the Miami Hurricanes on the recruiting trail, and it's one that used to be pretty common in South Florida. Hi, my name is Brian Smith, and this podcast is going to talk a little bit about an old rival becoming a new rival yet again in the world of recruiting. The Miami Hurricanes have to fend off a lot of teams that come into South Florida and try and gain recruits. One of those programs, old school, that would be the Auburn Tigers. And right now, they're trying to get a couple of different players out of South Florida, at least get their feet wet, if you will. And they're also, I'll get back around to it, trying to get a kid that the University of Miami desperately wants from the state of Mississippi. And we'll talk about that second. But first off, Zaquan Patterson, Chaminade-Madonna, safety, class of 2024, offers from pretty much anybody you can imagine. Michigan, Auburn, Miami, Florida State, on and on and on. He has a ton of interest from schools all across the country, and for good reason. He's even going to play some corner this year for Chaminade-Madonna, showcasing his ability to backpedal, hip swivel, make plays on the football. But it's his striking ability, his leadership, and his overall physique that fits the safety position. Zaquan's a natural leader. I will open-endedly say that. He's very articulate, very aggressive when it comes to getting on his teammates. Hey, we need to do this, this, and this. He gets it. It's a team sport. Football is the ultimate, quite honestly, team sport. And Zaquan does a good job of making sure guys do what they're supposed to. Finally, he makes plays. That's the bottom line, too. He gets to the football, whether it's in pads, whether it's in 7-on-7, a camp, combine, doesn't matter. Very competitive young man, and he wins. So the programs that I've heard the most recently, and this is just me passing it along. I have not talked to Zaquan recently, and I probably won't until August or early September. Auburn, Miami, Michigan, Florida State. Those are the ones I'm hearing the most. But Auburn is interesting for the following reason. With Hugh Freeze there, he's a legit coach. I mean, he can flat out coach football. I'm curious to see if, even if Patterson goes up there in the fall or shows considerable interest, how much that helps Auburn reestablish a pipeline. Like they used to get kids out of Dillard, they used to get kids from the public league, etc. I'm curious if that can kind of help them open it up. I have no idea, and it may not be as big a focus for this coaching staff at Auburn as what it was for like Pat Dye and coaching staffs thereafter in the 80s and 90s for the Auburn Tigers. Now, one guy, though, in today's world that has some clout, Zaquan, being one, could open that door. So that's something to think about. Ironically, the other player is Kamarion Franklin that I was mentioning a minute ago, state of Mississippi, Tennessee, Ole Miss, Miami. Those have been the three most commonly mentioned for him here recently. But then I was told by multiple people within about 24 to 36 hour period that Auburn was involved and he might go to their Big Cat weekend or whatever. I've heard he's going to Miami at the end of this month. I've heard he's going to Auburn. As the saying goes, I'll wait for it to happen. Then I'll report on what I'm told. I know with 17-year-olds, there's always a little bit of this, that, and the other. And maybe he's going to both, like going one day to one and one to the other. I don't know. I don't know the exact dates, but if he's taking a visit to Big Cat, and they got some really good players going to Auburn's Big Cat weekend, he'll be around a lot of talent. It'll be interesting to see what Kamarion Franklin has to say. He's been to Miami, I think, already like 3 or 4 times this year. I forget. It's a lot. Even camped at Miami and worked out with Jason Taylor. So that's a good sign for the Hurricanes. But Auburn really needs defensive linemen, just like Miami does. So they can sell playing time, and it's closer to home. I'm not really sure what he's going to do with that. That's going to be interesting because there's a lot of ways he could go. I mean, Tennessee's desperately needs defensive players. Ole Miss does. He's looking at schools he can probably play early. But Auburn is the one that's most curious to me. It's year one for Hugh Freeze. So didn't want to really take up too much of your time. Just kind of wanted you to know that the Auburn Tigers are back in the mix. And it used to be that Auburn always got a lot of kids in South Florida. They used to get at least 1 or 2 a year, sometimes more. Now, if they can get that one guy, I'm not saying it's going to be Patterson, that'll be interesting. And they've always recruited Mississippi hard. It's just ironic that the Miami Hurricanes are really trying to dig in and get that young man as well. So anyway, please like this podcast. Please share and subscribe. And most importantly, please make sure you comment. Whatever it is you want to talk about regarding the Canes, I'm happy to jump in and get into the discussion. We can talk about the upcoming 2023 season. We can talk about the depth chart. We can talk about the 24 class, the 23 class. I mean, Josiah Trader just committed. That's a good thing. Artavius Jones, he just committed. That's a great thing. Things are going good for Miami. So let's talk some ball. Everybody have a great night.